Welcome to another Green Story, the podcast that tells inspiring tales of fashion and sustainability. I'm your host, Birgit Luik, a Dutchie who is excited to take you on this journey. Each episode of this podcast is an adventure in exploring the intersection of fashion and environmental responsibility. We will share stories of the bold and beautiful, the change makers who are shaking up the industry with their passion for all things green. Because we believe that change comes from both consumers and the industry, which is why we're here to inspire and empower everyone to make a difference. Whether you're a seasoned eco-warrior or just dipping your toes into the green waters, we've got practical tips and creative ideas for you to try. Now, I know you're wondering, why another green story? Well, it all started with my own journey to a green closet. I waved goodbye to fast fashion in November 2022 and never looked back again. From that moment on, I was hooked on the power of sustainable fashion to create a better world for all of us. So, come along with us and let's explore the exciting, complex and oh so gorgeous world of green fashion. Together, we can make a difference and tell another green story. Today we have a remarkable guest who has redefined the way we perceive fashion. She is the visionary behind the clothing look, an accidental swap empire that has captured the hearts and minds of people worldwide. Please join me in welcoming the inspiring and trailblazing Nichon Glerum. Hi Nichon, welcome. It's really nice to have you on this episode in the Changemakers series. And maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit more about yourself and about the business clothing loop.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. My name is Nichon. I'm 38 years old and I work as a photographer with a background in design. And I usually work in fields of theater and the cultural sector. Besides that, I haven't bought anything new myself for over 14 years. That's just a lifestyle. I don't think it's necessary. I enjoy the whole secondhand journey, and I really love to swap clothes. I love swapping events. I host them myself in my living room on a small scale, and I've also been asked pre-corona to host big swap events with partners in Amsterdam like Tolhuistuin, Nemo Studio, Café de Keuvel. So that has always been something I really enjoyed. And then, of course, as we all know, new Corona hit, and everybody started clearing their closet and clearing their house. And so within the swap community and within my local swap community here, lots of people said, well, I've got a beautiful bag full of clothes for the next one, but who knows when that's going to be. So we just shared that we have a swap app.
Yeah.
And that question came by, and then someone else was like, oh, well, I wouldn't mind having a look in the bag of clothing that you're willing to let go. And some other people said that, and some other people said that. And the coincidence was that we also had a producer in our community, and of course she was also without work. So she was like, I got this. I'll make a route. I make sure this is happening. And so I cannot take credit for the clothing loop coming into existence, into its very first form, because it was just something that we did. It wasn't really like we sat down on the couch and we were like
Thinking about it.
Let's create a swap empire, because that's what I like to refer it now as my accidental swap empire. We just started doing this, and along the way we figured some things out: what was working, what wasn't working, what was the ideal size of bags, how many bags per number of participants do we need. Like, we figured it out. And then the lockdown ended and we sort of kind of kept going. It slowed down a little bit because everyone was busy. But then by the time the second one hit, I was like, okay, we got something here. Like, there's not a lot of fun things happening right now, and this actually gives you joy. So I just told some friends about it, and they were like, that's a great idea. So in other parts of Amsterdam, I live in Amsterdam, other parts of Amsterdam, these loops started to happen. And at a certain point I was like, because I was in the middle, everyone was like, can you refer me to the one hosting the loop in West, or can you invite my friend for the one in East? And I was like, okay, I want to not be in the middle. So I made again Floortje, the producer, she's better at these things than I am. We made a Google form, and every loop that was active, I put on the form. People could sign in, and then they would be added to their local loop. But that started growing and growing, and it was like, okay, maybe we need to get some press coverage because this is cool. Like, we're already 27 loops. So again, with the help from someone in the swap community who's she's a media person. I can't remember what she did exactly, but we wrote a press release. She was in PR, I think. So we wrote a simple press release, send it out also through the network. Everyone knew someone, and it got picked up, not massively, but a little bit. And we started growing more and more. And at a certain point, we were like 70 or 80 loops within the Netherlands.
Yeah.
All hosted by local volunteers. Some of it, everything was just people heard about it in the press or they heard about it from a friend. And it just started happening. I wrote a manual to sort of tell everyone, like, this is what I learned doing this, starting a little bit earlier. And then the national news called, and then things really started snowballing. And our Google form was just getting out of control. It was growing too big. It wasn't really serving its purpose anymore. And I was like, we need to, this is the point where we need to start professionalizing. Like, I cannot do this anymore
next to your 9 to 5 either, I guess.
Yeah, well, my work's never been a 9 to 5, but yeah, no, it was getting out of hand, and I was like, it's too good to stop. So I asked for help, and I mentioned this a few times before, but it's really nice because we're not only swapping clothes, we're having these communities. So
yes,
every time I needed something, someone was like, oh, I know someone, or I can help you with that. So I was like, we need a developer. We need our own system that's better and more streamlined. And so we found some funding. We got ourselves a developer, and this took a lot longer than I expected, also because I don't have any experience with making these new systems. But by now we have this beautiful website where everything people need, they could find. There's all these tools. We have a toolkit folder with our manual, but also all other things. Our website is translated into 7 languages by now, and there are 3 languages still in process. So we're also really accessible for also people living in the Netherlands, not Dutch speaking people. But yeah, at a certain point, it just started to cross the borders naturally. Like, this whole process has gone sort of, I followed instead of I was pulling. Like, I want to do this.
Yeah, so that
it was just like, oh, we're doing this now. Okay, then I'll follow and I'll make sure it happens. So everything is sort of came into existence quite organically. So we had a spin-off. I think the first spin-off was in Switzerland, which is really nice, by a Dutch person Nicole, working for an NGO over there, and she heard about it and she was like, I want to do this here. So Switzerland was the first, and by now we are active in 14 countries, over 4 continents, which is a milestone.
It is. And congratulations on that, because I saw it on the social media this week and it was like, wow, it's growing so fast, and it's amazing that you're already spread out so much. Yeah, really congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's really great to see. And it's, on the other hand, it's really a no-brainer because we don't need anything locally other than a person that gets it and that is willing to host their local loop, as big or as small as they want. So we don't need to have, a space. Like, we don't need a physical space like you have with a normal international expansion. Like, that comes with a lot of logistics and personnel and regulations. Exactly. And this is a lot easier. We give everyone all the tools that they need, and as I said, we do our best to translate the website in as many languages as we possibly can, also with the help of volunteers. And we just plant the seed and see where it sprouts. And sometimes it sprouts and it dies, and that's okay, But because I decided at a very early stage to keep them together, to make them visible, where in the Netherlands back then you could join one of these swap communities, that served multiple purposes. First, we were very visible. We were findable because we were together. It's like a school of fish. If you have tiny fish, you don't really see it. But if you school of fish, you see it from a distance. And I feel that because we kept it together and we had the numbers speaking for us because we were growing so rapidly, and we still are, we were visible more, which made the snowball effect sort of keep going. It started snowballing, but also it gives people some sort of validation. People were like, oh, well, that's great. They do that in Amsterdam. All those hip people in Amsterdam. I live in a village. It doesn't work here. But then they see the map and they see all these dots where all these communities are, and they're like, hold on a second. If it is working here, then it should work with me. Why wouldn't it? So it gives some validation as well that we are with so many people. And prior, you mentioned the Clothing Leap to be a business, but I like to see it more as a movement. We are definitely non-for-profit. We work with a lot of volunteers. Even I am mostly volunteer. So it's more of a mission than it is a business.
Yeah, but I really like that you're saying like it's more a movement. It's because it's a mission based. But do you think that you want to keep it that way, or is it maybe that you think or wonder if it's possible to turn it into a business?
I thought long and hard about this because even though the project will always be free of charge for participants, it's not free to run the project. As I said before, we outgrew the free systems. We got something, even sending out a simple newsletter is costing money because we have to send it to so many people. So it is not free anymore to run this project. Having said that, we calculated our impact, or actually MAEX did that, which is Dutch. It's like the maatschappelijke AEX. It's a platform that calculates sort of societal value based on the SDGs. And we were estimated to our societal impact, if you can say it like that, is over 4 million euros. And we can exist with only like 1% of that. So it does cost money. However, compared to the impact, it doesn't really cost a lot. But having said that, we need to get that little, even though it's a little, we still need to get it from somewhere. So we did think long and hard on how to do this without ever charging the participants. The participants are not our clients. And I have a very clear explanation for this because, as I said before, we're not only swapping clothes, but we're creating communities. You really need this, I don't know the English word right now. The Dutch word is the gunfactor. So you really need to want to get to others. Yeah, we'll put it in the whatever show notes or whatever of this podcast, what it is. But as soon as you charge people only a little bit, like €1 per month membership or something, it doesn't feel like it's theirs. Like people really take ownership of the project, and that sometimes they don't even know I exist. They're like, oh, but this is just me and my neighbors doing this. And they don't know that the host that is hosting their local community got their information from me. Like I'm not micromanaging anything. So credits to the host, absolutely. But it doesn't feel like a movement, which makes it very powerful because people are like, if things are not going well, they take ownership and they're like, okay, so this bag was full of things that shouldn't be recycled in this form anymore. Maybe they, should go into the shredder and turn into isolation material or whatever, but people discarded of them because they're too old and not because they don't fit them anymore, literally, or, because they just moved to a different stage in life. Yeah. So quality is one of the things that could go wrong. And then if people paid for joining, they like, solve it. I paid for this. You're responsible. I cannot be responsible. At any time, there are thousands of bags circulating. I think over 2,000 bags. I cannot take all of them.
No.
So I made it very clear that the participants are not the clients, but then who is, of course, the more interesting question. And I think what we're looking into now is that we really want to sort of put a number on the impact that we make, because, we need to be climate neutral or sustainable, I can't remember the word, by 2030. And that takes not a village, but an entire country. And we're actually really working on this. So by now we are partly funded by Stichting Doen and some provinces. But that's sort of the direction that I'm looking into in order to keep it sustainable. But it will always be a very lean business. So it's easy to get there.
Yeah. But what I saw on the website that you can also make like a single donation or you can become a member. And so that's also possible if you're if you're really like what you see and think, oh, I want to donate, and then that is possible as well.
Absolutely. Warmly invited, but not obliged to donate.
Yeah. And you talked about the community and about the creating the movement, and that's what I really like is your reference to the fish. One little fish you cannot see really easily, but if it's in, how do you call it? If it's in
a school fish.
In a school fish, then it can be spotted really. It can be spotted, and then other fishes will join because they want to be a part of this movement.
Yeah.
But and what I like is that the chains is from the people who are wearing the clothes, and because a lot of times companies have like that they need to change the mindset of the consumers. Instead of just buying, we need to change something. But here we see that some people really already have that mindset and want to share that mindset with others, and supporting initiatives like Clothing Loop so that it can spread out even more. But along the way, you talked about challenges like, okay, if you want to take it worldwide, we have to translate it in different languages and stuff. But were there other challenges that you experienced along the way of expanding, or like then it blew up? I can imagine that it also like, wow, this is like you stepped in that train and it just, bam, it took off.
Yeah. It definitely did. At a certain point, we were growing so fast that it was really hard to keep up. And also we didn't have the structure. I mean, I say we, but back then it was still just me. I didn't have any structure. So everyone was emailing me on my private email, my private Facebook, my Instagram, my WhatsApp. Like people just found me through all these different channels with all these different questions. And that was hard. I was never, I could never switch off anymore. I was answering messages day and night. So that was reason for change. And then luckily I found the developer to sort of help automate some of the things that I was doing manually. And also now I have Paluca, who is my coworker, and she's helping a lot with we still get a lot of questions, but we only answer them when they're sent to our email address. So that's really nice because then I can also not see it sometimes when I'm doing other things. So yeah, the growing, we definitely experienced some growing pains for sure. And then the money issue is also, that's hard because, at a certain point, if we really hit the end of our funds, like we cannot really afford our developer anymore, but the website still needs a lot of work. So that is a challenge. But all in all, I think I really feel that right now we're in a good place where we got some funding to keep going for another year. We have our team together. The website is functioning quite well. Translations are going well. So it really feels like it's calmed down a bit, and it also gives me more energy because I really like to do this, to tell the story and to make people enthusiastic. And I'm working on our social media now to also share and inspire, because some people say, well, in my loop, your loop sounds a lot more fun than mine. And and I always say, lead by example. If you want to see more pictures of what people take out of the bag, start by sharing one yourself. If you feel the quality is not up to par when the bag comes to your house, just really switch it out. And people are sometimes scared to take something out and throw it in the recycling program if it's not theirs to decide. But no one's going to ask you in a month's time, where did my old H&M t-shirt that I slept in for 3 years. Where did
With
it
a hole.
anyone happy with it? Like, that doesn't happen. So you really can take matters into your own hands, and you really notice that if you do put in really nice items and you sort of turn things around, that really it's an upward spiral, because then people are like, oh, well, if this is in the bag, I'll add this. But more sometimes people tell me, well, the clothing in the bag is not nice, so I'm not gonna add my nice things. And then I'm always looking at them and I'm like, really? But do you hear yourself? Like, you're not obliged to do anything, of course. Everyone could decide what they do with their old clothes. But if you're in a system and you're only expecting to take without giving, or you're only willing to give when you have taken something, then of course the system doesn't work. It's a system that needs a very precarious balance of giving and receiving. And sometimes you need to start with one and sometimes you can start with the other. But I noticed that if that balance is good, it's really a lot of fun. And it really changes people's mindset. I mean, some people just join because they think, well, free clothing, who doesn't like free clothing? And then they're part of it and they're like, oh my God, every 3 or 4 weeks, I get this pile of clothing delivered to my doorstep. And this is just what we have extra. And it just opens their eyes. It's like, there's too much stuff in this world. And then sometimes it changes their behavior. Sometimes it doesn't. Both is fine. Of course, I prefer the first, but if you're only in it for the free clothes, then everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome, regardless of age, size, income, which gender you identify as. It's very, like, we don't screen on anything. The only thing that's important is that you don't live too far away from the person prior to you in the loop, because we think it's really important that it should be super easy to bring the bag to the next person.
Yeah. So you don't have to go all the way to the other city or travel too far. Yeah. And I also like that component, how you say it, about clothing loop, that it's also not, that it's also like, because you refer to the community as if you need something, how you can evolve your business with the help of the community, but also that, of course, the community binding for the people within the loop, so you get to know each other. Yeah. And I think that's so important, because a lot of people, as I speak for myself as well, of course, when I lived in Den Haag, I didn't really knew my neighbors. I said hello, goodbye, and there it's we're stopped. And with this, you get to know each other quite well because of the clothing, of course. But I don't know. Also, if you meet it, if you meet them, can you tell a little bit more about that as well? So maybe a fun story about the stories behind the clothes before, for example.
Yeah, exactly. So, you maybe I should start by explaining how the system works, because I don't think I already did in this talk. But how it works is you join one of your local loops and you're placed on the route in a logical spot. So you don't have to walk very far to the next, and also the person before you doesn't have to walk very far. And these bags of clothing, they circulate. Most go this way, and then there's also the exceptional ghost rider bag, we call them, and it travels the other way. So there's other people in front of you sometimes, and you have like different styles potentially. So and people just pass along these bags, and if you find something in the bag that you like, it is encouraged but not obliged to share a picture in the app group. So that's the first thing, that these people that are also in your group, they sometimes see your photo if you decide to join one. So I've been recognized in the schoolyard where people are like, hey, I recognize you. You're in my swap community. Because of course you only directly meet, and especially this was the case during lockdown, you only directly meet the person prior to you and behind you on the list. And then it was still like a front door situation. By now that the world is open again, sometimes people, have a little chat or have coffee or even become friends. Like, I recently got a picture of people, 2 ladies in my group, and they went to ITFA together, the documentary film festival, and they shared a selfie from them in the cinema, and they're like, we're behind each other in the loop, and we became friends through this, and we're wearing this and this and this from the bags, and now we're together at ITVA.
Wow.
So that is definitely possible, but it's also, so you could, meet new people, feel more sort of rooted in your neighborhood, even when you don't make like real friends that you do things with, but you just recognize people a bit easier, and it really gives you sort of more sense of belonging. But also, you have this really easy space where if you do need something for a wedding or a skiing trip or a theme party or whatever, it's really easy to just ask your group, like, I'm having this, does anyone have that? And then usually it sorts itself out, and people just lend things and borrow things. So that's also another aspect. And then of course you meet new people, because it's usually not the person right behind you in the list that has the item that you need. So that's another way of meeting people.
Yeah, and what I also like, because when you browse your website, clothinglab.org, there was also about the stories behind the clothes, because that's always a nice thing, because sometimes you're really attached to something, to a pair of shoes or to a dress, because you think, oh, I wore it to that wedding, or oh, yeah, it was my a dress from my first date with my husband or whatever. And then it's sometimes hard to let go of it, but maybe you don't fit it anymore. And I think that's also like a really nice aspect. What is a nice story that you can share about something that you experienced in your loop, or the clothing that you took out of the bag?
Well, very nice one that has been in the press before, but it's I've got some really nice brown wedge summer shoes, and this is already 2 years ago. I got them out of the bag, and so I shared a picture. I was like, these are gonna go with me this festival season. And then my next door neighbor, who I'm also friends with, she was like, those are the shoes I was married in. So she didn't have the traditional white wedding shoes, but she had some really cool brown leather sort of open heel.
Yeah, I saw them. Yeah,
They're in the video. So that's a story that I've told many times, but it's one of the good ones. But of course just the other day, I got a bag and I found some pants, and they were really amazing. They were like turquoise, and they had this on one leg. They had this sort of open worked embroidery. So there were sort of flowers, but there were also little holes in them from the embroidery. And I mean, I have studied fashion, and I could see these were handmade, but they were handmade really well, like by someone who knew what he or she was doing. So
yeah.
and I didn't fit them, but they were so gorgeous, and they were exactly the right, model. I really liked flare, like wide palazzo pants, but I was like, oh, maybe I'm taking them in, but they were so nicely made that I actually didn't want to take them in.
Oh yeah.
But I was having a photo shoot with Palooka for on our website, and those pants were exactly the right color, so I just brought them, and I was like, maybe we can just clip them or whatever. But Palooka took them on, put them on, and she's a bit taller and a little bit like one size up from me, and I was like, okay, I'm not taking them in, you're keeping them. So I shared a picture in a result of the photo shoot in my group. I was like, okay, so sorry, I took these pants out, but they were too good on her. And then one of the people in the group, she's like, this was my friend or my neighbor's friend who is a tailor, and she was doing a studio clear out, and the leftovers she donated for me to put into the swap bags. So these were all like tailored, one of a kind things, and it really shows. It's really, really nice.
Really nice made. Yeah. And yeah, I really like those stories behind the clothes, because if you buy new clothes, of course there's a story behind it as well, but more a sad one for some fashion stores, of course. But this is like a nice one, and that you also shared it with somebody else who you said, oh, it looks really great on you, you can have it, and that's what you shared back with the group, of course. And Also, when I looked at your own Instagram, and you've just said it like you have a background in fashion and you have like a really expressive style. And when you look at your Instagram, it's also an inspiration, and you can think, oh wow, you can just mix whatever you want, and it can still look great. And that's what I think, that if you just walk in a city, or you just walk into a fashion store, it's also brave, or I don't know, braaf. What is that? Because brave is like it's dull,
dull.
maybe.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't
Safe.
know, safe.
Maybe, yeah.
Safe is a better word. Yeah, that if you walk out through the street, it's also safe, and also in the stores, it's like between the borders, between the lines. So when you look at your profile, it's like bam, and like why not? Because yeah, closed can be, and you can use it as a statement, and also like why can't you be seen? Why have to be like some sort of flower wall? So don't see me, don't see me, don't see me. No, you're there, and you really take the stage in it, and I think it's a real inspiration. Maybe you can, because what was your the social media account of yourself, and of course for Clothing Loop as well, so we can follow along.
For Clothing Loop, the handle on Instagram is The Clothing Loop. And well, my personal Instagram, I like to refer it as the Instagram of my closet. So it's called Up for Swaps with underscores in between the words. And it's funny because I really never take selfies. So for me, starting this account was it wasn't easy, but because I started sharing the selfies in the app group of my loop, those weren't meant for anyone except for the people in the loop, but they were really nice. They were actually really nice to use as a journal, from combinations that you made or things that work together. So then I already had them, and also because I work as a photographer, and then sometimes there's always money for a stylist, so I sometimes do some styling myself, and I do have, as you said, quite an expressive style, and also, I must admit, quite a lot of clothes by now. So it really comes in handy, because people are like, if for a shoot, or also if someone asks me in the group, like I need a specific something, I can just browse the Instagram and send them a picture and say, is this what you mean? So that's really easy. And it's really nice that, I mean, I haven't bought anything new in 14 years, so lots of it is swapped, lots of it is found at iHolla, but from every piece, I still remember where I got it, like King's Day, Queen's Day. Those were always really big moments for me.
Yeah.
And it's like my closet is just this collection of stories, and some are more interesting than the other, but every item is like a successful treasure hunt. It's like, I found this was screaming from me from the other side of the street, and I went there and I got it and I found it. For example, I was for ages looking for yellow pants, and I organized one of those big life events at Tolhuistuin 2 years back, I think, and that was my mission. I was like, I want to find yellow, like wide leg pants. But by the end of it, we were cleaning up, and one of the volunteers, Kirsten, I was saying to her, oh, bummer, I didn't find my yellow pants, and I've been looking for them for ages. And she looks at me, she's like, I've got yellow pants. We've got the same size, I think. I never wear them. So she mailed them to me, and they were perfect. I was like, yep, these are what we're looking for. So that's not through the loop, but it's through a swap, and it's through, like, communicating, telling you what you want, what you need, and also her realizing that it doesn't serve her. Because that's another thing that I really like about swapping or buying secondhand, is that you sort of kind of almost take money out of the equation, especially with swapping. Like, money is just not an issue in deciding whether an item works for you or whether it doesn't. Sometimes we have this obligation towards something that we paid a lot of money for, to sort of make it worth it, even though, it was a mistake. We bought it when, we were in a mood low. Yeah. well, we were in a mood that we were never in anymore afterwards. And then these become sort of guilt trips in your wardrobe, and they take up a lot of physical and a lot of mental space. And sometimes it can be really hard to let go of those. And I can imagine that. But if everything in your closet is sort of, if money is not an issue anymore, you really see, does it work for me? Does it fit me? Like I've added a Victor and Rolf pair of trousers to the bag because they were beige. I don't do beige ever.
I don't do beige. I like that.
So, I mean, I could have sold that on Vinted or the Next Closet or Vestiaire Collective, and those are all initiatives that, you know, are also a very big and important voice into this journey that we're all in together towards a more sustainable fashion industry and a more sustainable closet. But for me, I was like, this is my preferred way. It's easy. I don't have to go answer millions of messages about the size and then send it, and then it may get lost in the mail, you know.
Yeah.
So I like that there's all these different ways to create your sustainable closet. Like you have clothing libraries, which are perfect if you have a public function or, you know, you read the news every day or whatever. But for me, having two kids with greasy hands all the time, they don't work for me at this point in life. But it's great they are there. And so the clothing loop is, you never know what you're going to get. So if you're looking for something specific, for people looking for something specific, or people with very, very, very tight schedules that, you know, that it's hard to sort of find the time to pass it along to the next person, even though she lives like 5 minutes away, then this is not for you. But you can sort of zigzag. And also you don't have to stay true to one size. And I also always say to people, you know, if you do buy something new, like make sure that you vote with your wallet. Like buy something that really fits you, that is gonna, you know, be worn. I always have this 30 wear rule. You gotta wear 30 times. Yeah. You know, if possible, and if your wallet allows, buy something from a sustainable brand, and also don't feel guilty about it. Because people, also I eat vegetarian, and people are always sort of making excuses when we eat together and they eat meat. And I'm like, it's my life decision.
Yeah.
You should do what you want. I mean, of course, I highly applaud you if you decide to eat less meat or fly less or, you know, buy less clothes. But it's, in the end, other people judging other people, that's not a very, how do you say it? That is not
an encouraging
way. It's not an encouraging way. And so what I like to do with the clothing loop, and what I really enjoy that it's happening, is that it's really giving people a valid alternative that's not pointing fingers. It's just showing you could also do this, or you could do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and maybe a little bit of your old lifestyle. And then, you know, but I did, because at a certain point when we were doing the clothing loop for, I think, over a year, I was invited by the What Design Can Do and Impact Hub No Waste Challenge. Or actually, we won the No Waste Challenge together with 15 other initiatives.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yes. And, and in that program, we were really challenged to sort of look at our project from all these different angles, and we had all these different specialists. And so one of the subjects that we got was design research. So I was like, I'm going to see if everything I think about this project, if it is actually happening. So we did a survey and we got over 1,500 replies. So it's quite a nice amount, because I think by that time we were 15,000 participants. So it was like a 10% number. And I don't know the numbers by head. The impact report is on our website, and it's not a boring report. It's very colorful and very, like, with lots of images. But over half of the people said they noticed a small or significant change in their own consumer behavior. And so a mindset shift in almost half of the people that was a really big thing. And then you think, well, that's all still half that didn't change. But actually 90% of that other half ticked the answer, like, I was already living a sustainable fashion lifestyle. So I was already thrifting and already mending and already, you know, doing these things. So for that group, we were an extra way of doing that. We facilitated that. So in the end, only I think 5 or 6% said, nope, it's just free clothes, nice extra. And that was really, so for 95%, I was really proud of that. And I was really hoping that, but to sort of see that come out of our survey was, it was great.
Yeah, it is really great because 95% was saying that it makes a difference and that it changed their mindset. And I think that speaks for itself. And also like why I wanted you to talk about your own Instagram as well, because when I look at your Instagram, I see, oh, that's possible as well. So you get inspiration out of it. And that's what you can get out of the look as well, because if something doesn't fit for me anymore and I see it's somebody else wearing it, I'm like, oh, wow. And then it's like, I don't know, you have like a really nice and good feeling about that as well. So, yep, so that you will pass along more clothes in this way, of course, and swap it in this way. When you think about like, because we're almost running out of time, and I was like thinking about the end question, what do you think is the future of more sustainable fashion? Because you also talked about other alternatives, and that each alternative is for its own purpose. Of course, we need like different things because it fits different styles. But what do you believe needs to be done to ensure a sustainable fashion industry? Just a small question to end this.
Wow. Well, whenever people ask me this, I always like to refer to this hierarchy of needs. You have the hierarchy of needs by Maslow, which is very famous, but there is this hierarchy of needs made by a Canadian illustrator, Sarah something. I forgot her name. But basically, it goes from the bottom is use what you already have and use it well. So that also comes to mending, it comes to styling different things. Then it is lending, and then it's swapping. So those are the bottom three. And then comes thrifting, making things yourself from scratch. And then the top is buy new.
Yeah.
And what I love about the bottom three, so using what you have, lending and swapping, is when this is executed locally, it has little to no impact. You can keep doing it. So this need for something new, which is very human, that's like in our nature to have these new things and to satisfy this need. And once it satisfies, it sort of disappears and you need to do it again. Like we have that need. It's very hard to change that. But when we can satisfy it in the bottom three of those hierarchy and sort of take the top three as the exceptions, I think if we manage to move a lot of people towards there, not only a few that live in the perfect bottom half, but move towards that massively, that will it cannot be that is not noted by the fashion industries. And I read this article recently about Shein or Shine, I never know how to pronounce it, which is, of course, you have H&M and Zara, which for a long time were sort of the evil things of fashion, but now we have ultra evil, which is Shein and Primark. And I just recently read an article that they actually may be good because they are so evil that finally people have this rage. They can't close their eyes for it anymore. So yeah, I'm just hoping that once, I think with Shein and Primark, we really hit rock bottom when it comes to use of materials, use of labor, the circumstances in which people make those clothes are really inhumane. I think once we hit, or we have sort of hit rock bottom, and I hope that creates the mindset shift that is necessary to move more into those bottom three layers. And I really hope that by doing that, the people that are still producing new items of clothing will make them in a way that they can be worn by more than one person. So if I'm done with it, or my body changes, or my life changes, switch jobs or whatever, that can go to the next person and it will still look good. And I really hope that's happening, because right now that is not the case with a lot of brands. They just wear too fast. And I'm just really excited to be part of this shift. I mean, so much is happening and so much needs to happen, not only in clothing, but in the entire shift towards circularity and sustainability. I mean, the iceberg is definitely in plain sight. I mean, it's there. So this is what I do, and this is what I do perfectly. And in all other areas of my life, I try to do as well as I can. But yeah, also don't be too hard on yourself, because change takes time. And I think as long as we keep inspiring each other instead of judging, that's how we get there fastest.
Yes, and that's so nicely said. Like, let's inspire each other instead of judging, and also like, I don't know, it's shine. I think I pronounce it always as shine. I think that's really when I hope that was the bottom, but it for me it opened up my eyes as well to more sustainability, and I was like, I don't wanna buy something like that anymore. And I think like with your clothing, with a clothing look, it's like a really great and nice initiative that you can join, and it goes way further than just the clothes, because it's the community that really speaks for itself as well. And I really want to thank you for sharing your amazing story about the clothing loop and how it evolved so quickly and turned it into a worldwide organization. And of course, I want to encourage everybody just to check you out on not only on the Instagram, but also like on the website, of course, clothinglab.org. And yeah, as you've said before, there's a lot of money needed also, and don't that you can participate and like donate. And I certainly will. I was already clicking on the how you say it, on the button on your website before we did the interview, but I'm gonna finish it right now, because I really want to say thank you for starting this. And like that you help so many people, and that you're like what I really like it that you said, I don't want to judge other people. I want to inspire and encourage other people to follow along, because together we can be the school of fish, and that can be seen by others. So yeah, thank you very much. I really loved doing this podcast interview with you. And yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.